Harley, welcome to Resilient Retail. Harley, welcome back. I see you have changed your outfit a ton from a black t-shirt to a black hoodie.
It's winter. It started to get cold in Canada, so I've moved from a James Spurs black t-shirt to a blue salt black hoodie.
Nice.
So I've really updated it. And also I want to impress Noah, who at some point we should probably talk about that Noah and I went to summer camp together like 25 years ago. And which is kind of a nice little story.
I love it. Noah, how are you doing today? Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Kristen, and thanks, Harley. Very happy to be with you. I'm doing well here in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. You know, the weather's looking nice. Everyone has a good attitude. We got some good news this month, and things are looking up for the holidays.
Love to hear that. Let's jump right in. Noah, can you start out by just telling us a little bit about Heatonist and the brand and what you do?
Absolutely. So I started Heatonist back in 2013. I actually started with a pushcart out of my apartment here in Brooklyn. And I had always loved hot sauce as a kid. I would always put Tabasco on everything. And like anybody who gets into hot sauce, you find as you use it, you use more and more of it to get the same reaction. So I was just using more and more Tabasco until my food tasted only like Tabasco. And I wanted to branch out. And I found that there's a lot of different options out there, some good, a lot not so good. And I ended up piling up this collection at home of a lot of hot sauces I just wasn't using. And I thought, gee, there should really be a place where you can try before you buy. And that's what got me started. And since then, we decided to do only small batch, all natural craft hot sauces. And it's been a wild journey ever since. We opened our first store in Brooklyn in 2015 and our first store in Manhattan in 2017. And we've been having a lot of fun.
I'm always so fascinated. Entrepreneurship is not only my day job, it's also my hobby and my passion, everything I think about, and frankly, maybe an obsession. So I'm always interested in sort of that origin story. You talked about moving from a pushcart to actually having a physical retailer, but I want to sort of go back just a little bit further to before the pushcart happened. What were you doing at the time? What made you decide? I mean, you talked about the fact that you've always loved hot sauce, but there's usually a moment in time or a period in time where you say, you know what? I love this so much that I'm going to turn something that is my hobby into my life's work. And I want to hear a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually working for a global digital agency at the time, big company, 30,000 employees. And I was leading a team and would work with some big Fortune 100 clients, Mercedes-Benz and Uniqlo and just all types of big organizations. And I was a little bit frustrated at coming to clients with what I thought was a really great idea. And it would just get mutated in committee and transformed into something that ended up being like kind of a dud on launch. And I really wanted my own brand where I could just say, this is a good idea. Let's just do it.
I'm going to go for this as opposed to sort of, dying by 1,000 cuts because you have consensus-driven decision making.
Exactly. It's just something to have fun with. I wanted my own brand. It was here in Brooklyn. Everybody was, in the creative industries, and I wanted to flex a creative muscle. And I always loved hot sauce, and I was really passionate about spicy food. And it just seemed like a natural extension. So actually, when I started the pushcart, that was just weekends because I still had my 9-to-5 job every day. And I became famous in our office. The office was about 500 people. And I set up in the kitchen a Heatonist hot box where I would have each week a curated selection of different hot sauces. And, there was a ton of engineers and data science people and things like that. And people were just going nuts for this hot box in the office kitchen. So I gained a reputation there. And when I finally left that company, I did a walk around to say goodbye to everybody after 5 years. And they said, oh, where are you going? What agency? I said, I'm opening a hot sauce shop. They said, that's amazing.
Yeah, and they all probably thought to themselves, all right, he'll be back after he needs some money or something like that. Like he's definitely going to be back here at some point.
Oh my God. When we first opened up here in Brooklyn, a hot sauce store, I tell you, half the people that opened the door just leaned their head in and they said, just hot sauce? Good luck.
Oh, yeah. And I got to ask about that. Even in 2015, e-commerce was really starting to get some legs. And yet, even from day one with the pushcart, you were always focused on that in-person experience. It seems like that was a dedicated decision at the very start. And then you went into retail, which, like you're saying, just hot sauce in a store is not a very common business endeavor. Why was the retail part of that strategy from, day zero?
Well, I'll be honest with you. So the push cart, that had to be in person. And the push cart for me was really validating the idea. It was saying, is there anything to this? Let me invest some money, not everything I have at that point. Let me invest some money to really test this idea. And I put a lot of thought into it and sourcing the right products and setting up the branding, and rolled the push cart to the first event on that first night back in October of 2013. And it was at this concert venue. And I remember when they opened the doors and the first wave of fans came in, there's this guy right away said, "Hot sauce? That's awesome." And I was like, all right, there's something to this. It's not just me.
One of the things that Kristen brings up, which is such an interesting point, is that I've always thought the coolest part of the internet is that a niche of a niche of a niche actually is a fairly large community on the internet. That someone or some group of people that are into this really esoteric niche thing in their city, there may be 3 people that are into that as well. But when you expand, across every single internet user, which is more and more is trending towards the entire world, you actually do have a real community there. And yet you still decided to start physical first before and build a brand first before doing that. Why?
Well, for us, it was hot sauce, and selling hot sauce successfully is all about good taste. From the beginning, our brand was always about good taste. And good taste and being seen as having good taste depends on something that we can approximate as authority. And having a physical retail space in a neighborhood like Williamsburg, Brooklyn, which is arguably the hippest, among the very hippest in the entire world.
Center of hip, for sure.
Great things come from here and great ideas spread from here around the world. So having a physical space that anyone could open the door and walk into here in this neighborhood was a great mark of authority for us to say, hey, not just some guy in my mom's basement in Tuscaloosa, even though that guy might be doing a great job. But it was really saying, no, we have our stamp on it. You can come visit. You can talk to us. Like, we know what we're doing and we're able to make it here. Like, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, it gives that visceral feel of authority when there's a store and it looks beautiful and there's this experience around it. It immediately becomes, okay, this isn't some guy's random collection of hot sauces that he's just walking around like tossing on everybody's food. This is a real thing where they have curated this experience. And now we got to get into the obvious question here, which is Heatonist is retail first. Hot sauce naturally comes with a very experiential retail kind of situation. Things like taste testing is obviously going to be really important. And then, COVID hits and your doors are completely shut. Taste testing is definitely something you can't do. What was that experience like? Can you take us back to that time where you guys were looking at the closures and just what did that feel like?
Well, I want to be honest with you. And I feel very grateful that we were able to withstand that without too much difficulty. But even before COVID, more than 90% of our business was online already. So for us, it definitely wasn't as challenging as for a lot of our friends and peers that we see here, especially in New York City as everything shut down. And one of the reasons we're here in New York City is because of the amazing food scene and food culture in this city and the inspiration that we get from all the chefs and restaurants putting out fantastically creative products. And seeing the hardship was really difficult for us. We were able to just really shift our operation, spend a lot more focus online. We had planned to open more retail this year, so obviously we shelved those plans. And now we've just slowly been reopening our stores. So now we have them each open 3 days a week. But it's definitely it's renewed the way that we look at online. Even before COVID, any of this, I said to our team, I challenged them, our website gets 99% of the visitors who come to any of our stores come to our online store. And in my opinion, that's our worst retail experience. If you come into one of our shops, they're beautiful. There's an expert that you can talk to give you advice, to relay the stories of these wonderful products. And online, you go and it is a website.
It's more transactional, right? As opposed to experiential. You go into the store, there's a knowledgeable person there, there's a vibe to it, you can feel it viscerally. You go online, it's more of a transaction. I want to buy this, I'm going to buy it now.
And it's really, in our stores, we have no information on the shelves. There's nothing posted, no signage, no shelf talkers. There's not even prices. And it's all designed to drive you to talk to somebody, to have a conversation and to have an experience and to discover something new. And, on our website, you can go and virtually pick up a bottle and see what that bottle says, read a description of it. But that element of discovery where you can talk to somebody and say, I'm cooking a leg of lamb tonight. What do you recommend would be fun? Sure, we have live chat on the website, but that element of discovery and that you just need to know that you're in the mood for hot sauce and that's all you need to know when you walk in the store is something that we're still working on.
Yeah. So you actually said something that I pulled this quote from the earlier conversation you and I had that I think sums it up really well, which you said to me, our online store is the most visited, but the least rich experience wise. And that's really what you're talking about is that experience, the customer journey that happens, the human element that happens in the store that before COVID, maybe like you're saying, wasn't happening online. And so as you're challenging your team to start thinking about it, how do you guys start to think about that omni-channel experience and bringing some of that in-store magic onto the online store?
Well, definitely the easiest to do that at the start of COVID was that's when we rolled out live chat, which we never had before. But let's be honest, how many people are really going to have this virtual conversation with, everyone who responds to our live chat is a Heatonist employee who's worked here for more than 2 years. They're experts in what they're talking about. But a lot of people are skeptical of live chat. They think they're talking to a robot. So we did that. That's the easy one. But next really has to be about this unbounded discovery where people don't have to know what they're looking for. And we should just be able to pull them through an experience without them needing to be motivated enough to raise their hand and to say, can you help me with this, please? It should really be more about, welcome. Come on in.
It's interesting. So I had a conversation with Joey, who's the founder of Allbirds recently. We talked about this idea that modern retail brands do not look at each channel as being a separate thing, but rather part of a larger model. And in the case of Allbirds, if you go into their store on Prince Street in Soho, or you buy at their online store, or you buy off a pop-up, or you buy directly via Instagram, it doesn't really matter to them how you buy because that is the most convenient way that you as a consumer has decided to make the purchase. But that it all kind of feeds together so that you may walk into a brick and mortar store, you may try on a pair of shoes, but you may then decide to go purchase it later on your iPad sitting on your couch and you have a few minutes. Or next time you're on Instagram, you see an ad for it and decide you want to buy that way. Whereas if you sort of contrast that with more traditional retailers, you have this, there's actually a term for it. It's called channel conflict, where fundamentally one channel is conflicting with the other channel. It sounds like you're sort of almost at this like ultra modern retail philosophy, which is it's not even about channels, it's about experience, full stop. And however the consumer decides to engage in that experience, it has to be great no matter how they decide to do it.
Yeah, we challenge our team to think of our success in terms of how much love is being generated by the consumers. Hot sauce is a unique product. People have a unique physiological response to it, and they love that. And for us, it's all about how do we encourage that love? How do we keep it going? How do we grow it? And how do we put ourselves on that love loop? And when we talk about experiences, we try to strip away anything that's going to get in the way of that. What are the pain points in having the customer fall in love with us and our products? And from there, we definitely don't have any of that channel conflict. I think a lot of legacy organizations will have people who are responsible for distinct channels, and it creates that tension about where revenue is recognized. And for us, people are responsible for love. I don't know how sustainable or how much we.
No, I think love as a KPI or a measurable business objective, is a pretty great one to have. And actually, it is measurable. There are ways to measure love. You can see it in terms of how much they're buying. You can see how much they return. You can NPS score it. There are ways to measure love. Certainly, influence how many people does each great satisfied buyer tell others about. I actually think love as a metric is a wonderful way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. This actually brings me back to something that I have come around to again and again in the e-commerce space. It kind of became like my motto, which was customers before metrics, in the sense of metrics are great. And online, we always want to track every little thing we can. And we're looking at every little data point to figure out how can we get the most out of this touch point, this touch point. But what you're saying is if you focus on the people and the love and the customer on the other end, those KPIs are kind of going to follow because a great experience will turn into great metrics. And I think it's just a really cool way for, the people who are listening right now who are her brick and mortar owners and have never really thought in store, they're not thinking about, okay, when they go touch that piece of clothing, what is the data point on that? How does this all work to build an experience? They're just thinking, when somebody walks in the door, how can I make this space and this experience so good that they end up at my cash register at the end? And it's just a really good way to think about e-commerce, especially if you're getting into it and you're just getting started and you don't have these mountains of data, is you can just start from that point of customer love instead of metrics and working backwards.
And that's definitely how it was for us. And to your point about, get them to the cash, when I first started with the push cart, it didn't end at the cash transaction. I was thought through every element of it before we launched and saying, this last element of handing over the money, getting your product and your change, like, how can we make that better? And back then, a lot of the products were $8. And I went to the bank and got a big stack of $2 bills, which are a thing in America that no one ever sees. They're very rare. But I just went and asked for them and they gave me. And so in people's change, I would give people a $2 bill and they would freak out. It was almost
Of course, it's so amazing
It's
because
so
frankly,
cool.
a bunch of change. You end up putting in a little tip jar or something, and now you're giving them something that they haven't seen before.
Yeah, no, we never did a tip jar, but and this $2 bill, and they would show their friends, and then people would come to buy hot sauce just to get a $2 bill.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of something that Jeff Staple said in his episode, which he was talking about the retail experience. And he said, if the point of sale, if the point of checkout is the last thing, if that's your only goal, you're already doing it wrong. That can't just be the end of the journey. It actually has to be the beginning of a journey. And Harley, like what you were saying with this, channel distribution and not having channel friction, that is in the essence of saying, just because this happened in store doesn't mean the journey's over. It's just beginning a new journey. Now we can bring them online. Now we can do all this different cool stuff.
The $2 bill ended up having a significance for our employees too, because on the back of the $2 bill is Thomas Jefferson. And Thomas Jefferson, if I can paraphrase, said, when you do anything, act as if the whole world is watching. And we've always had that as part of our values about to operate transparently and to make decisions that we can always be proud of when we look back at them. So we really, when you're putting food in a bottle and people are going to eat it, it's very important that we take that responsibility seriously.
It's interesting. You talk about, to that Jeff Staple point, which I totally love, which is if your final touch point is at the cash when they're paying, you probably are doing it wrong. Actually, one of the things I love about the Heatonist website is that the online store is that when I go to any product page, the product page is filled with obviously information around the product, but on the left side, basically the entire left nav is essentially all reviews from past customers. So what you've done is you've effectively blended or eliminated the barrier between who is a customer and who's a merchandiser, who's a reviewer, who is an influencer. I mean, frankly, anyone that buys Heatonist products immediately become part of the Heatonist buying experience for the next consumer. And that consumer flywheel, I mean, I've seen that at a bunch of different beautiful online stores, but you do that exceptionally well. And I'd love to hear a bit about that, the thinking there.
That was another place where we invested a lot of energy early in COVID, was about specifically reviews. But when we were thinking about reviews, our idea really was about building community, and that this was an opportunity for one of the things we used to love was at the hot sauce bar to see total strangers be up there tasting different things. And they'd say to each other, oh, you got to try this one. Or this, oh, I had that one last time. That one's great. You're not going to regret it. And seeing these interactions between strangers and really, Harley, it's like what you were saying before about, there's this subsets of communities, but really this spicy food one is everywhere and it's just below the surface. Everybody knows somebody who loves spicy food. And we had this physical place where they could find each other, and it created this small sense of community where people were instant friends just from trying tasting together. And we wanted to bring that online, and we thought reviews could be a great way to do that. So in our reviews, we have built out within it that people can self-identify what type of heat level they like and how vinegary they like it and what they use hot sauce for, so that, they kind of almost like a mini profile to contextualize their review. Like, oh yeah, this person uses hot sauce every morning on his eggs like me, and he likes it medium spicy. Let me see what he has to say.
Yeah, I love that so much, because you're also turning, so many people that like hot sauce, the Venn diagram overlap is they likely are also into other types of foods, are very passionate about food if they're spending that much time thinking about hot sauce, which lends to the fact that they probably also do want to help others. Like, they don't want to necessarily become quote unquote influencers, but they do want to help others discover things because there's a deep passion for it. It's sort of like, anything where you can go really deep on a particular topic. People that love wine, for example, tend to geek out with wine, or people that really like technology, like great headphones and great sound audiophiles, they tend to go really deep, but their deep love of it goes beyond just their own accessibility to it. They also want to expose other people to the world of that passion.
Yeah, we're all looking for community.
That's right.
I think that's a really good point, Harley. And I think it's something to talk about, because for a lot of these retailers who have been, brick and mortar first, brick and mortar only, we've talked to a lot of people who they had built-in community stuff in those spaces. They were doing workshops, they were doing classes. Their community was able to come in and connect with them and each other. And there was all this learning going on. And for a lot of them, that was just kind of like full stop and nothing left to do it. How, other than these reviews, Noah, are there any other things you guys have done on the digital side to kind of keep fostering this community feel when I feel like humans are so desperate for that connection right now?
They definitely are. We did roll out a loyalty program. Also, was that during COVID or just before? Actually, it could have been before.
According to my notes, it was during COVID.
But, I don't want to say that's necessarily a community driver. I think that, we were so much an in-person community company before this that we're looking at these opportunities digitally, and now we're looking at how do we get more into the content side even more than we are going into 2021. But we're also looking at COVID is the near-term future for a lot of business. I mean, for all of us. So how do we work with that now that we have a longer planning horizon? So looking at next summer for when it's going to be warm again, how do we plan safe and responsible activities that engage the community in ways that we've always wanted to, but we were too busy managing shops and things like that. How does this turn into opportunities for us to deepen the sense of community? So things like farm visits and sauce making classes outdoors. And we have some really fun stuff planned for next summer. That's going to deepen that. And in the meantime, definitely getting our content engine engaged so that we have our chops down for when we have all these great experiences rolling out, so that some people will be able to participate in person here in the New York area, and that other people around the world will be able to participate digitally.
Yeah. It's, the name of the podcast is Resilient Retail, and certainly Kristen interviews some great people that are truly resilient entrepreneurs. And that, I think, is the trait of resilient entrepreneurs. It's that when they see a tidal wave, they grab their surfboard, as opposed to yell at the wave and shake their fist in the air and say, I can't wait for this wave to pass, and so I can go back to the status quo. And you've done that. One thing I do want to talk about is, you talked about authenticity a lot. You talk about the feeling when people walk into the store, and how do you scale authenticity in a digital sense? I think about like how popular, just to give me this quick intro, and you'll see where I'm going with this. But no one knew about mixed martial arts until UFC came around and brought it to the forefront of like everybody's lives. Like, I'm not, I wrestled a little bit in high school because I was too small to play football. And I went to high school in the US, and the US was a big deal to play a sport in high school. And so turned out that wrestling was a big deal. But I never had a relationship. I never knew what mixed martial arts was. I still really don't. except I can name you, a bunch of UFC champions. And it's kind of a weird thing how that sport has been integrated into my life. I also am not. I'll say this, as I'll say this honestly and authentically. I'm not a hot sauce fan per se. I don't use hot sauce on a daily basis, but hot sauce was brought into my life through Hot Ones. And I want to talk about that relation with Hot Ones, of how you were able to, and together with Hot Ones, you were able to inject hot sauce into the cultural zeitgeist of society in a way that is interesting and compelling, so that someone like me who doesn't necessarily, have the same passion towards hot sauce has been thinking a lot about hot sauce lately.
Yeah, I think we definitely came along at the right time when that swell was building, to use your wave metaphor. And yeah, hot sauce has taken, I think, a well-earned place in the way we all think about food. And I think it's really, people ask me oftentimes, is this a trend? Is this like cupcakes were back in 2009?
A fad or something, right?
Yeah. Is it going to wash away just as quick as it came? And really, I don't think so. I think overall, like, if you think about it, think about your own parents. Like, when they were kids, what did they eat, right? And think about you when you were young. You started going to Taco Bell and eating Thai food and things like that. And now you see kids, they're just eating hot Cheetos, and McDonald's has ghost pepper chicken sandwiches. The spice tolerance of the whole world has just gone up. And a lot of it has to do with people being exposed to new cultures and learning to enjoy new things. But I think that, as people have looked really to food to be an experience, hot sauce plays perfectly into that in a way where some younger generations, we all hear they're not drinking as much and they're doing some drugs and things like that. But hot sauce is right up there in terms of the things that they're into. And I think that hot sauce is a great fit for that space, because not only is it safe, it's healthy, it's good for you, but it's also a great equalizer. We go on this journey together. When we each try the same hot sauce together,
some of us have a higher pain tolerance for it, but that's right. But in terms of Hot Ones, I mean, you how did that work? Did you see, wait a second, there's this thing that's coming out there and I really like it? Or was it, hey, I have an idea, let me partner with them? I mean, so many people that are listening have seen some semblance or resemblance of something happening in the cultural zeitgeist, and they want to connect to it. And I think it'd be very valuable for them to hear how you got so deep involved with Hot Ones.
So it was actually right around when we opened here that Hot Ones started. So we opened up our first shop in 2015. And
I think it happened at a Vox initially, right? Complex, excuse me, right. And then it moved, and then it sort of became its own kind of thing, but it started in Complex. That's right.
Yeah, it's still part of Complex, and Complex itself has moved and become, switched holdings. But the show was started by Chris Chaimberg and Sean Evans, who were starting First We Feast. Chris started First We Feast, which was the food blog of Complex Media. And Complex, of course, from Mark Echo, that we all remember when we were younger. Complex magazine was like
the cool thing. Yeah. When we were in summer camp together, I was probably wearing a Mark Echo jean jacket, I think, at the time.
So this was in 2015. We were here, if it was slow, I'd have the windows open and just be a hot sauce, get your hot sauce. And the phone rang, and it was Chris Schoenberger and Sarah Honda, who are the producers of Hot Ones. And they said, we have this show on YouTube. They had, I think, 30,000 subscribers at the time. And they had maybe 5 episodes down. They said, it's a show where we interview celebrities and we eat hot sauce. And we thought it would be really cool for us to have a hot sauce for the name for the show. And we went and watched a couple episodes. Like, yeah, this is cool. Let's do this. And now we've been working very closely together for the last 5 years. It's been a wonderful partnership where they've grown and we've grown in lockstep. And it's really, we've created a ton of great products. And what I'm especially proud of is that when we view the products that are tied to the show, it's not a classic licensing thing. It's not taking a logo and slapping it on. It's that the show gives us an opportunity to give someone a taste. And the taste is just the first step. And from there, it's up to what's in that bottle to get them to fall in love.
Yeah, I love that.
And it certainly helps that celebrities fall in love with the song.
Well, actually, I mean, there's that great Jeffrey Moore book called Crossing the Chasm, when a piece of technology moves from the early adopters into the mainstream and eventually it gets into the laggards, and my mom starts to use it or so. But I wonder if the timing of the rise of Heatonist and the rise of Hot Ones and the rise of hot sauce in general seem to all kind of happen in the same wave. And I think one of the reasons that it happened is because of the authenticity that you brought to the partnership.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a sponsorship deal or a promotion or a pay to play type thing. It felt genuinely authentic. And I think that makes it different.
Yeah, it never was. When we first worked together, there was no money. There's no money changing hands, nothing like that. It was really started from that place of authentic partnership of let's do something cool together. And then from there, as the popularity of the sauce grew and the popularity of the show grew, it turned into a business arrangement. And me and Mark Echo worked together to create the first framework of how we were going to partner in that way. And that framework still exists now. So 5 years later, we're still working off that same way of doing it where we win together, which is really nice. And that's what allows us to work so closely hand in hand with all the teams at Heatonist, working with all the teams at First We Feast to create content, to plan products. We just announced last week our newest product with them, Hot Ones Nugget Honey, which is an amazing,
saw that.
delicious nugget honey. And we've been working on that with them for 2.5 years.
Oh,
awesome.
So it's really, having that deep level of partnership and connection allows us to think in those types of time horizons to create and invest in totally new products that the show then provides a platform to tell the story to the audiences. So it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I think something that I'm just listening to you guys talk and it's kind of clicking in my brain is, Harley, what you were saying, this combination of Heatonist coming and rising up around the same time as Hot Ones. And then we keep saying authenticity. And Noah, you called hot sauce the great equalizer, which there is nothing more like equalizing than watching a very high celebrity like sweating and can't talk through hot sauce. We've all had that experience. And that brings just that extra level of authenticity and storytelling that brings somebody close to the story of what's going on and the human element of it that you would get in the store. But again, it's all digital. And this is really like the power of content marketing, I think, in general. Harley, I want to toss this question to you because I know you and I are both, content fiends. We love content marketing. We're doing a podcast right now. This is content. What is, for someone who, is very new in the scene of e-commerce, what is content marketing? What does it bring? And why is it even kind of worth thinking through if you're going through this kind of shift onto online right now?
Yes, I was just thinking about the now famous Paul Rudd line, which I think is "Look at us," isn't it? I think that was it, right? Look at us, just two guys eating hot sauce together. But that's the great equalizer, right? I think the thing that we're all talking about here, and Kristen, you were correct and so accurate to weave this thread here, which is that there is a way to digitalize authenticity. There is a way to scale love and passion in a digital world where I'm not in Colorado and I'm not in Brooklyn right now. I'm in Ottawa in Canada, but yet there is a way for us to connect the way we are doing right now. And content and content creation is a vehicle to do that. But the key to it is what Noah said earlier, which is why I think Heatonist is so successful. And Noah is such a great leader and founder of this company, which is that it is a long game. He did not know what was going to happen in that first meeting when he just provided free hot sauce, presumably, to the Hot Ones. He did not necessarily know where he was leaving breadcrumbs around, and he didn't know where those breadcrumbs were going to leave, but he was playing the long game. And that's what we think about at Shopify also, right? When we create a piece of content, we put out a simple tweet, or it's a video, or it's a course about entrepreneurship. There's a level of care and a level of authenticity we put into it. And we don't necessarily need an automatic ROI right then and there. We don't necessarily need to see a conversion rate or some metric happen at that moment because we're playing the long game. And I think when you combine this very long-term time horizon with real authenticity and people that actually care about what they're talking about, as opposed to paid endorsements, you get magic. And the best example I can give you is if you think about celebrity endorsements in the 80s versus celebrity endorsements now, they look completely different. There were you have some sort of outliers like George Foreman and his grill, which frankly he really cared about. But you had, Tom Cruise talking about toothpaste.
Mhm.
And maybe some people resonated with that, but most people did not see the connection between Tom Cruise and Crest. But now you see people like Drake putting out OVO. I just bought the OVO Roots Canada collection. I mean, there is you see Drake's fingerprints all over OVO, or Kylie and Cosmetics, or Jeffree Star in that same way, or Noah Chaimberg and Hot Sauce. That there is more than just a connection. There is more than just a paid endorsement. You do see a real extension of that human being. And I think that's what makes the difference. And that's why I think content right now, from a digital perspective, is the best it's ever been.
Yeah, I love that. Noah, just to kind of start wrapping up here, what does the future of Heatonist look like to you? What are you most excited about? I know you talked about some stuff next summer, but take us, Harley just mentioned the long game. Take us even further. What is your blue sky of Heatonist look like?
As far as I'm concerned, we're just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
We're always just about ready to get going. I think definitely a big thing for us is about accessibility. Like right now, our products are for the most part only available if you happen to be along the L train in New York City, or buying online. And let's be real, like food products, COVID has definitely changed things up. But before that, it was a very small share of food products that were purchased online versus everything else that people are buying. And we want to make them more accessible too. Getting the right mix of products into possibly shelves that are closer to people so you could pick it up. That's going to be interesting for us, and leveraging what we do online as the foundational element to support that is really interesting. Sort of the backwards model of these, a lot of the ways that other brands have done it for a long time. For us also, we're going more back to the roots, if I could put it that way, and really investing in our existing farming relationships and farm operations, because the hot sauce category has been growing by leaps and bounds. And we grow the chili peppers that go into most of our products. They're all grown organically, and they're done the right way. And we never even talk about that. And we want to get more involved in that. We want to be talking about what makes our products unique. And for us, a lot of that starts with the way that the ingredients are grown. We want to talk about farming and soil and agriculture practices, and how we need to be thinking about stewards of the environment as product creators. We put a lot out there into the world, and it's important for us to do that responsibly. So I think that's going to be a really interesting story for us to tell. So definitely in the future, building our chops around putting out our own content. We've partnered with some of the most amazing content creators in the world to tell our story for a long time. And I think we can do more to go that level deeper for the sauce nerds who really want to dig into it. We can be doing more of that, and really get into the roots of it. And then definitely as COVID subsides, we're excited to open up some more stores. We were talking about earlier this year plans to open up on the Las Vegas Strip that have been shelved for now, but that'll be an exciting thing for the future. For us, the retail is really a brand experience. And if you can have this great marketing brand experience that breaks even or better, it's fantastic. And it's really, we want people to be able to have fun with us.
Yeah, I love it. Now I have to ask, because I'm sure that people listening or watching are going to be thinking the same thing I am right now, which is, I already know now what I'm getting my dad for Christmas, which is some sort of variation of hot sauces, because he's the guy who's like, oh, we're having chicken. Let me dump half a bottle of Tabasco on it. He always has like 6 different flavors going on. You'll hear him like hollering downstairs, like, Adrian, where's my green Tabasco? So I already know this is what he's getting for Christmas. So I got to ask, like, what is your favorite hot sauce right now? Which I'm sure is trying to ask you who your favorite child is. But if you have a favorite or a top recommendation for people who are thinking about gifting this year.
Yeah, I'd say you definitely have to try the Hot Ones Nugget Honey that's launching this coming Thursday, November 19th. So maybe in the past now, actually.
It's funny because Nugget Honey was actually my nickname in camp.
He brought it all the way around.
Just kidding.
I'd say definitely try that. With Keith Habersberger, we launched Keith's Burger Sauce 2 months ago, and that's a fantastic one. It's great on just everything. I've been using it as salad dressing because there's mustard and horseradish and fig in there and smoked onions. It's like just perfect on salads. You really can't go wrong. And we have some really exciting new products launching over the next couple of weeks that I can't quite talk about yet. But Harley, I think you might be excited. One of them touches on your passion for martial arts.
Oh, great.
So excited. Now, Harley, thank you so much for being an incredible co-host today. It's so much fun to have multiple voices come on the show. I know by now you know how these episodes end, so I would like to give you the honors to please wrap this episode with Noah, the resilient way.
Sure. So Noah, as you obviously know, this is called Resilient Retail Podcast, and Kristen's done an amazing job of bringing this thing to light and showcasing incredible entrepreneurs doing incredibly resilient things. But I want to know, what does resilience mean to you?
Ooh, that's a good one. Resilience to me is that you get up and try again. I think it's really a level of grit. I'll be honest with you. When we opened up here, we were supposed to open up on a Saturday, the first Saturday of spring, where there's a big food festival around the corner. And we were 2 days late in our construction. We opened up on a Monday, and it was a rainy Monday afternoon. And I sat here by myself because I didn't have any money to hire employees yet. And nobody came in. And I just really had to pee, but I didn't dare put a sign on the door saying back in 5 minutes.
In case that one customer came in, right? Yeah.
And I thought, what have I done with my life? But you know what? Stuck it out. And I'm so glad I did, because this has been such a fun journey so far. And I know that we're just getting started.
So excited. Well, thank you so much, Noah, for being on today. This has been such an insightful conversation. I feel like we got so much good stuff out of this. And Harley, thank you again for coming and blessing Resilient Retail with your experience and expertise and presence.
This is so fun. I want to be a guest host more often.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm usually the guest, but guest hosting is even more fun.
Well, do it. And you guys are going to have to try and find and dig up a picture of you guys from 94, 95 at summer camp.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Unfortunately, yeah, iPhones and smartphones didn't exist then, luckily, I think, for us. But we can find something.
We'll find something.